Let's talk to Grant McAuley about what happened today with our Braves. They lose 10-7 to the Twins. Again, these are spring training games, but you're working on things. And, Grant, I want to start with what is Ian Anderson working on? What was the issue today? His stat line did not necessarily look great. Four earned runs. He gave up 3 walks, 1 1/3 innings pitched. What's going on with Ian today?
Well, I think as much as anything and as much as you want to say, hey, spring training numbers, kind of put him to the side, how'd the guy feel? Is he healthy? And what's he working on for that next start? When you go back to Ian Anderson, he's been working on things for a while. Last year was a season that very much did not go the way he wanted to. So when he went home in the offseason, it was about getting healthy because he had no oblique injury at the end of the year, but he also added a slider to his pitch mix. And that, I think, to answer the question is what is Ian Anderson working on? That's the pitch that he feels is going to give him that extra dimension in his arsenal. It did not really translate as far as the results in the first game. He gave up 4 runs, a leadoff home run, got a couple of outs, then walked 2 batters, then gave up a 3-run homer, then ended up getting himself pulled out of the first inning. But in spring training, you can go back out in the second. So he did that, got a couple more guys out, issued another walk. So the command just wasn't there. And I think that if there's anything that will really start to help Ian Anderson unlock his potential to be back to what he was in 2020 and in 2021, it's going to be fastball command, getting ahead of hitters, and then being able to use his very effective changeup and mix in 2 breaking balls, the curveball that he's thrown at times and the slider that he's offering that he told me is going to be helpful because it breaks a different direction from his changeup and could help him with right-handed batters especially.
Grant, just for the listeners, I know most of the guys know about this stuff, but they work on things in spring training, right? There's not like you guys are sitting there like, I'm going to pretend this is July in a pennant race. I mean, they're working on new pitches. We've talked to Anderson, for instance, with the slider. So there are some things you see, but we did see a fantastic outing from Max Fried and Strider over the weekend.
Yeah, we did, and I think that you always feel good when your top pitchers are out there doing the things that you're accustomed to seeing them do. Max Fried struck out 4 over 2 scoreless innings. Spencer Strider with a couple of strikeouts in his 2 scoreless innings. And in that game, we also saw what looks to be very much, 80% of the Braves' opening day lineup, and that was a good game. This is one of those where not only are they working on things, but you also don't get quite the same lineup when you go on the road. Nobody really likes to travel all together that much, even if you only have to go about an hour. But, yeah, the results in spring training, it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, yeah, everybody from a point of pride would like to go out there and throw scoreless innings and pick up a couple of base hits and do the things you're accustomed to doing. But this is very much a work in progress, and if I may be allowed, at least for the first week or so, to say it is still early in spring training, and, you'll give guys time to work through a few things.
So Vaughn Grissom today, right? 3 at-bats, 3 hits, 2 RBI. I don't want to get ahead of myself to your point about spring training, but do you feel like he looks the part? Is he getting the work in that he needs? And where would you assess him right now, again, early in spring training?
Yeah, really, the work that he put in over the course of the winter, when I got to, see Vaughn working down in spring training this past week and hear from him, he really hasn't stopped since the season was over last year. So I think he was just itching to get into these games, and now we're seeing exactly why. He's gone out there. He's made all the plays thus far. I think he's looked pretty comfortable at shortstop, and he's picking up a good bunch of base hits, 3 more today, a double, knocked in a run, a couple of singles. And I've never really felt like he has he didn't give away a lot of at-bats last year. Even when he was slumping, he still would work counts. He just wasn't getting that final result that he wants to. And I think that's something that's kind of an underrated part of his game. But as far as his focus in spring training and all that work and everything that he did over the course of the winter, it's just about proving himself, kind of passing the eye test in spring training that, hey, this kid looks like he's up to the job. He is making the plays. We believe in the bat, and we're going to give him that opportunity. And thus far, the early results are very promising.
It is our man, Grant McAuley, talking about the Bravos. And again, we'll wait and see how this lack of Dansby is going to translate. I know I asked you last week about Vaughn Grissom. How's Vaughn Grissom look?
Yeah, I mean, Vaughn, I think, looks fine. And I think one of the things that he's able to benefit from is the fact that, he's not a guy that has to be the centerpiece of this show. He's not a long tenured member of this team that's counted on to come in, and if he doesn't produce, then, what are you going to do without him? So I feel like that's kind of something that works in his advantage as well. He's just able to be a piece of this club rather than the centerpiece of this club.
We're talking with Grant McAuley, guys. We do it a couple of times a week now. We'll do it every day for the most part once the season gets rolling. Grant, what are guys saying about the new rules and all that's happening? What's been the biggest conversation? Is it the bases? Is it the pitch clock? What are guys saying about these adjustments they're having to make? Like, what's the one thing that you're hearing?
It's got to be pitch clock, number one. And I think that we had that crazy game, the Braves' very first game you come out, and it's like that crazy hypothetical of, well, what are they going to do with 2 outs in the ninth inning in a tie game with the bases loaded? And are they going to let this thing decide a game? Well, apparently they are, at least in spring training. I hope to never see that in the regular season. But that adjustment, I think, for both sides, for the pitchers for their pace, and for the batters, I guess, for their awareness of what's going on, that's the big thing that I think everybody's just trying to get really keyed in on. The bases, Vaughn Grissom actually said that he was among the first players that played with the larger bases when he was in the Gulf Coast League a couple of years ago. He said it was actually weird to go back to small bases after playing with the bigger bases, but you don't really notice it after a few weeks. So I expect that to be a little less of a talking point. I mean, there'll probably be plays where we'll see that there's, baseball being the game of inches. Well, the bigger base helped there. It helped him beat that throw to second base. It helped this guy have a little bit more of a target, I guess, if you're the pitcher covering first, to get to the bag right before the hitter. There'll be some bang-bang plays, I think, that'll be affected by that. But for the most part, that should pretty much look and feel like baseball. It's just going to take a little while to get used to this new pace of play, which I'm not opposed to, but I would like to, see some common sense and I guess maybe some continued evolution of this as we find out some things that maybe don't work quite as smoothly as perhaps we'd all like to see.
Grant McAuley is with us as we're talking about these new rules. I mean, we saw it, I guess, was over the weekend against the Red Sox, Grant, when somebody didn't get engaged with the pitcher quickly enough.
Yeah.
I know that Max Scherzer made the comments over the weekend saying that it's going to be advantage pitching in this. What do you think so far? How the pitch clock's going to affect things to start?
I don't know that it's really going to affect the hitters altogether that much. I mean, I know that the Cal Conley play against Boston was something that we all looked at. I mean, I tweeted it out. That's a brutal finish for a game to be decided that way. And you're looking at it, and I watched the replay a few times. You got the catcher standing up back there. I mean, Conley's already looked at the pitcher, then he looked down, then he looks back up, then the umpire calls an automatic strike. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? Is kind of my question. But I don't think it gives real advantage to the pitcher. I think as much as anything, they have to adjust to the little nuances and things that they're used to being able to do when they weren't governed at all by a clock. And I asked Matt Olson about a lot of these rules changes, and the pitch clock in particular, and he said as a hitter, I don't know that it really affects me or really any of us that much, because it's not like I'd step out a whole bunch and take a stroll around. I mean, if you foul the ball off your foot, clearly the umpire is not going to start a 15-second pitch clock to make you jump back in there. I mean, you'll be able to call time. Those are kind of the little things. I mean, a bug flies in somebody's eye. I mean, we play outdoors in the summer. Stuff's going to happen. So I think that those are the kind of things that we'll just have to kind of see it. And as Brian Sticker was saying time and time again, we're going to have to live this to really start to understand all the applications of this. But I'm glad we're doing it in spring training and not being thrown into this in a regular season situation without any time to adjust.
Grant, the bobblehead dates came out. Are you excited about that Outcast bobblehead? What's your favorite bobblehead?
You may already know. Twitter might have provided a small spoiler. That Outcast bobblehead, that's going to be sought after. I can't wait to add that one to my collection. But there's a 1993 Press Box Fire Ron Gant bobblehead that, as the kid growing up watching the Braves, I mean, I remember that game and that day, the Fred McGriff game, as vividly as anything I remember of being a young Braves fan. It's just one of those moments that you don't forget. So the Ron Gant standing in front of the Press Box Fire, I'm excited about that one. Fired up, if you will. Pardon the pun.
I saw your tweet this morning about it. I said, Grant, the only way that thing's any better is if it doubles as a cigarette lighter.
If you could make it a cigarette lighter or maybe an ashtray, I don't know,
right.
The whole ballpark, or I don't know, but it's pretty great looking, I'll say that. And the Braves, they've sent out another huge lineup of bobbleheads. We're going to run out of shelf space for all this stuff.
It's always fun, man, to look back and see all the great bobbleheads that have come and gone. This is going to be a great lineup. We were talking about it earlier. That's what we're asking, Grant. If you don't know, it's out there if you want to go check out the Braves dates and whatnot. But those are going to be hot items. Hey, man, we appreciate you jumping on as always. Again, Braves lose today, but they're working on things in spring training, and we're more concerned with the player development and how guys look and what this team's going to look like. We're still trying to figure it out. Grant, thanks so much. We'll talk to you in a few days, man.
You got it, guys. Can't wait.
All right, that's Grant McAuley.